Hello again, I'm Andy Olson with Echo Zoe Ministries. Thanks for joining me for another installment of Lessons in Logic. For this installment, I'm talking about composition and division. Now, composition and division are really mirror images of each other. They're very, very similar. They kind of, one is the reverse of the other, and that's why I put these two together. They're different fallacies, but you'll see why it makes sense to just talk about them at the same time. So the way this works is composition falsely assumes that what's true of parts is also true of the whole. And then division is just the opposite of that. It falsely assumes that what's true of a whole is also true of the parts. So examples, and I got these from the Fallacy Friday podcast. I don't know if you can see the link there. I know it's really small, but apologetics315.com. And this is a number of years old. This is probably goes back to about 2013 when I originally did the series. And I just looked it up and I noticed that I think that website kind of went down for a while, but it appears to be back up. And if I remember right, they had some great material there. So check out Apologetics 315. At least, when I first did this, they had a lot of great resources. But examples that they had, just really simple, and you can see why this is fallacious. But as for composition, if you were to assume that because every music track on a CD is 10 minutes long, and yes, kids, we used to get music on compact discs. That's how we used to get our music before MP3s came along. But if every track was 10 minutes long, every song on it was 10 minutes long, therefore the entire CD is 10 minutes long. So you can see where that would be fallacious. Maybe there's 5 tracks, so obviously 10 times 5 would be 50, not 10. And then as far as division goes, if you were to look at a brick wall and you can see that the whole wall is fragile, and then assume that means that each individual brick within that wall is fragile as well, that would be fallacious as well. So, and as an architect, I can understand where people might think that, but bricks are actually quite robust materials, and oftentimes if the wall's fragile, it's because the mortar that's holding it together is fragile, not the bricks themselves. And because I like to not only give examples of people that I disagree with, but maybe some examples of fallacious arguments from our side as believers. A common example of composition, that first fallacy there, that comes from the cosmological argument for the existence of God. Now, I don't usually use the cosmological argument, but like I said, because it's arguing for the existence of God, it comes from our side. Anyway, it says the cosmological argument that says that everything in the universe has a beginning, therefore the universe itself had to have a beginning. Maybe it did. I believe it did. I believe the universe did have a beginning. But this particular line of reasoning would be fallacious, and you're engaging in the composition fallacy. So don't use that one. I think the people making that argument are correct, but they just haven't constructed their argument in a logical manner. So that's composition and division, and I hope that you'll better understand that now and see that when it pops up. But it's not always quite as clear cut as the CD or the brick wall, but we see that hopefully that cosmological argument will show that you do come across it, even though you might not quite understand that that's what's going on. So that's the composition and division fallacy. So thanks again for joining me, and we'll be back again soon for another edition of Lessons in Logic.